Welcome, everybody, to our webinar on aligning UX with business impact for aligning UX with business outcomes for impact. Today, we're thrilled to have Ben Good, a UX manager at Newell Brands, which is the parent company of Yankee Candle. And we also have Steven Shyne, the co-founder of the UX agency, CXperts. They've recently worked together on an impactful project for Yankee Candle, showcasing exactly how UX can drive business success. Today, we're going to uncover strategies to demonstrate the value of UX in achieving business objectives, ensuring that your role is not just seen as essential, but also a key driver of growth and revenue. Also, we will have the Q&A feature enabled, so if you have any questions, please submit them, and we'll try to get through all of them towards the end of the webinar. So let's dive in. First, I just wanted to highlight these statistics that show the business value of UX. So according to Forrester, every $1 invested in UX results in a return of $100. So it's a really impressive ROI of 9,900%. Also, 39% will stop engaging with content when the loading time takes too long. Also, from Forrester, good UI can increase conversion rates by up to 200%, and good UX can double this up to 400%. And from NAU, 88% of online consumers are less likely to return to a site after a poor user experience. And 73% of online consumers believe that a good user experience is key in influencing their purchasing decisions. And this statistic is from PwC. So, Ben, given the current landscape where proving the value of UX is more important than ever, could you share how you've articulated the importance of UX projects in terms of business impact at Newell Brands?
Yeah, definitely. First, those statistics are pretty crazy. $1 investment and $100 ROI makes UX sound like Bitcoin, which we're currently on our way to the moon right now. So I love that. In terms of quantifying impact for the business from a UX perspective, I think on our end, the Newell setup honestly kind of has a cheat code. Our workflow is a cheat code in the sense that we have the end-to-end human-centered design process at our capabilities. So UX research, UX design, as well as A/B testing and conversion rate optimization. So we don't have separate or disparate UX projects or UX prioritizations. It's directly integrated into our digital product roadmap, which is comprised of multiple business units and their top priorities. So we are directly integrated and embedded with our key business goals and objectives. And I think that that's a really strong differentiator. The more closely integrated you can be with those rather than just focusing on your own UX initiatives, the more impact is going to be easily quantifiable. So that's a little bit of a cheat code for us.
That's awesome. I'd love to hear a little bit more about the cheat code in a later question. Steven, from an agency perspective, how do you approach the conversation with your clients to ensure that they understand the business value of investing in UX, and what's been your strategy in making UX priority for them?
Yeah, thank you. I'd say firstly, it's a lot easier than it's been. But 10 years ago, UX did not have a seat at the table as far as most companies. And I'd say that is true for most companies today. So there's still those who question UX design and UX research. We like to draw at CXperts inspiration from construction. Well, you wouldn't build a building without a blueprint. And in order to get that blueprint, you have to have proper inputs of what's the facility going to be, what are the use cases, who's going to be living or working there. And similarly, with websites, you're not going to build a website without understanding the overall layout, content, features, and functionality. And in order to understand what those are, it would be customer sentiment, the wishes and wants, stakeholder requirements, et cetera, and so on. So it does help kind of relay some of that. But that said, there are still different case studies, and even these stats here are really good at helping understand that there are real business cases when it comes to UX. And UX research, like using WEVO, can help you understand where to point your initiatives, so that way you're not working on things that might not be the most impactful for the business.
Yeah, definitely. So, in terms of metrics, we know that metrics are crucial for demonstrating value. What sort of measures do you, Stephen and Ben, focus on to highlight the value of your work? And how do these metrics resonate with stakeholders and in terms of business objectives?
Yeah, I think on the Newell side, it's actually really simple for us. With our partnership with CXperts, we primarily work in the direct-to-consumer e-commerce space. So you're going to have some thematic metrics that you're looking at: conversion rate, add to cart rate, bounce rate, checkout start rate, checkout completion rate. So we're constantly looking at those. Now we do have some of the softer or more consumer centric metrics around just consumer sentiment, voice of consumer, things like that. But for us, because of our strong focus in terms of driving additional revenue, optimizing conversion rate, those are really, really simple metrics that we're constantly looking at. And we can see when we're running research, when we're building designs around those insights that we found through our research, and then delivering A/B tests, we can see very specifically, is this hypothesis, is it driving the needle or moving the needle up, or is it moving it down? And that's kind of that cheat code that I was mentioning earlier. We really do have a really good handle on the metrics we're looking to impact, strong partnership with our business team members, and we're able to see, hey, are these features, ideas, hypotheses, are they making a difference positively or negatively?
A real quick comment to that too is we at CXperts try to pride ourselves on understanding, connecting with, and empathizing end users as much as possible. We always try to be the advocate in the room. So it's sort of that proverbial empty chair that we always need to have for customers to make sure that we're using them, involving them in the decision-making process. But we also understand very much so that we are being sponsored by or procured by marketing teams. And so we need to make sure that we're making decisions that benefit both the customers, end users, and the company.
Love that. Stephen, could you zoom in on that, and could you share an instance where aligning the UX strategies with business goals for certain teams like led to a notable improvement in the client's key business metric? And how did you measure and communicate that success?
Yep, absolutely. And I think that's definitely the reason why we're here today is we have been working with Ben and his team and the whole team here at CXperts for regular ongoing UX research for several different products, including Yankee Candle. And one of our banner projects is gathering some baseline UX sentiment on both the product listing pages or category pages and the product detail pages. Over 150 consumers participated in this study using WEVO. We took those insights that we initially gathered, and some were quick fixes. Some were pretty apparent, the solution, very low, no risk, and obvious breakdowns, whereas others were a lot more nuanced. And for the ones that were a bit unclear for both the problem or the solution, we then turned to A/B testing, and we were able to vary the solution and reiterate and make sure we got it right. And then a year later, we were able to sort of do dozens of experiments later, we were able to understand the measurable effect on some of those direct changes and those winning A/B tests. And we wouldn't be here if the results weren't astounding, of course. So we were able to demonstrate a marked improvement in several different core areas. And yes, thank you, Marwa, for showing this. This is just sort of that overall sentiment panel from WEVO, where we can see this is before and then after, where we had tremendous improvement across the board on several different key factors that we were understanding. And I wouldn't be a good researcher if I didn't say that, of course, a couple caveats here is we had one that actually went from like a stat sig difference to just not stat sig. It's not necessarily bad. It just didn't prove the same stat sig results. But yeah, definitely a really great overall case study in being able to run WEVO, understand where to focus your efforts and prioritizing which things need to be fixed and how, and then and running another kind of comparative study to see the overall cumulative effect of all those activities.
Wonderful. Yeah, this is a really powerful thing to show, to stakeholders or people that aren't experience to UX to show the impact of your work in UX, just sort of that before and after. Ben, do you have any sort of metrics that corroborate with showing the improved after results?
Yeah, I think it's interesting. This particular WEVO study that Steven mentioned, that was my first experience utilizing WEVO or getting results from WEVO. I had heard of WEVO, seen some of it in action, but it was kind of our first time. And when Steven was explaining it to us on the Newell side, it's like, hey, you're going to get a ton of quantitative and qualitative insights. And so I was like, hey, sold, let's do it, right? And from what Steven mentioned, the interesting thing is this created, probably 30 plus hypotheses for us of, hey, let's test this. And last year, our A/B testing program drove a multi-million-dollar improvement of revenue. So largely successful results. So we have direct revenue contributions from that WEVO study of, hey, here's a point of friction, here's a user need that aligns with a business goal and objective, and we ran iterative tests on those to increase overall conversion rate and drive greater revenue. So we've definitely seen positive impact and results to the business out of this study.
Awesome. Love to hear that. It's great news. Jumping off of that, you mentioned collaborating with different sort of people in your organization, not just with stakeholders, but also within other departments. So collaboration across different departments is crucial for aligning UX with business outcomes. By working closely with departments such as sales or marketing, product management, or customer service, we know that UX teams can ensure their design strategies and initiatives are directly contributing to achieving the company's overarching business goals, such as what you mentioned, Ben, increasing revenue or enhancing customer satisfaction, reducing churn. So Ben and Steven, could you share your experience in fostering a culture where UX is a shared responsibility and not just siloed within the design team? And how do you engage other departments in the UX process to ensure that the overall business objectives are met?
I'd say from the UX research side, it starts in the beginning, where if you're curious, which UX researchers innately are, just ask someone on other teams, and you'll be surprised at how many champions you might be able to build out there. So ask the customer support team, hey, what are the top issues that you're hearing? Or ask the marketing team, what are the different areas of the site that seem to be breaking down? Or ask development if there's specific things that they're looking to launch that maybe are uncertain if they'd be valuable to end users. It could create a bunch of extra code and tech debt for features that would go unused. So start to ask, and then you'll build interest, you'll build advocates, and then you have to close the loop. You have to socialize your findings as well. If you begin with that ask and you get those champions, make sure that you share your wins and learnings. They'd be typically even more bought in to make sure that they helped contribute to something.
Love that. Just ask. See experts.
Just ask.
Just
Just
like
ask.
Nike. Just do it.
Yeah, right.
Just
Yeah,
ask.
trademark coming to you soon.
Ben, do you have any input on how you were able to foster a collaborative culture at Newell Brands?
Yeah, I love what Steven said, and it's so true. As a UX practitioner, you almost do need to kind of be a diplomat for UX. Like, you're building relationships, you're building partnerships. If you're doing UX alone, if you're doing it in a silo, I would argue that you're not doing UX in the most effective manner, and you're going to struggle to scale UX. But if you're partnering with digital product, if you're building strong relationships with brand or marketing, engineering, other key members on the business side of things, you're just going to be able to do more things for your consumers and make a stronger impact for your brand and your business. My favorite example is, imagine if you're a UX practitioner, you're driving a bus. The goal should be to get as many people on the bus with you as possible. You all are driving towards the same destination, a better experience for your consumers, a better result for your business and your brand. You can all align around that, have some conversations on the bus, figure out how you might make that happen, but you're all riding on the same bus together. And even to take that a step further, if you think of like way back in the when you're learning how to drive, and you're going through that, they used to have cars where there's the steering wheel and the gas pedal and the brake. They had that in both of the front seats, you know. And so you may be the one who's driving, but get everyone else on the bus, make them feel like they're steering, they're you know, they're pushing the gas, pushing the brake. Ultimately, you kind of have some override controls, but involve people in the process, get them on the bus. I think is a great way to think of you know, a collaborative UX approach.
One thing that you inspired me on just now, Ben, is especially from an agency client perspective, it can be hard to get some of that. And so what we try to do at CXperts is think about how our clients aren't paying us for research. They're not paying us for research. They're paying for results. And so how can we underline, highlight, circle, however, demonstrate the results of the activities, and typically that helps break down some of those walls too, and so that our champions internally can then bring on other people.
I love that, Steven, and just to support that, that is 100% true. So Steven and I, CXperts team in Newell, we've been working together for what, 3 years, 3 years plus, and they live that out very much. They're strong practitioners of research. They're strong practitioners in the CRO and A/B testing space, but they understand at the end of the day, we're trying to increase conversion rate. We're trying to drive higher revenue, and they are always having conversations in that space. And it's made just a great partnership.
Love that. We love partnering with you guys as well. Big, big collaborative effort here. And to zoom in on that, the work with Yankee Candle is just a prime example of how a successful UX strategy integration can have really big impact on the broader business objectives of a company. I wanted to zoom in a little bit on that cheat code that you had mentioned, Ben, earlier. For our viewers watching, do you have any advice on how they can kind of like set up that sort of cheat code in their company? And if you can share that advice, like if it's possible to implement it, or what sort of strategies it would take for anyone from maybe like a UX practitioner all the way up to like a manager or a director, like how would they be able to implement something similar in their companies?
Yeah, obviously it's going to depend on the structure of the company. Every company's org chart, structure, ways of working is different. So in terms of how we're set up, I'll give a couple tidbits around that, as well as, you know, to a variety of situations that you might find yourself in, some things that might be helpful for you. For us, I would say an important aspect is having a clear, understandable UX methodology. So at the end of the day, we're looking to obtain data, right? So we're typically data inspired in our approach. We're very research driven in our approach, and our solutions are human centered innately. So that's like our working UX methodology. So no matter where you're at, if you're a one-person UX team, if you're a part of a large UX organization, help to establish the UX working methodology. That's going to kind of give you an area to point in the right direction. For us, the cheat code really is we own that end-to-end process, meaning we run and execute research, we build iterative design solutions, we user test those solutions, and then we run them via an A/B test to determine, hey, is this going to have a positive or negative uplift or downtick to a specific metric that we have identified. So that's kind of like our setup. If you can't do that, and Steven kind of teased this out a little bit earlier, if you can't do that, find some way to be able to quantify the work that you're doing and tie it to a business metric. Partner with your organization's data and analytics team. You guys could run an experiment without an A/B testing platform. You could deploy a feature live out into the wild and run a pre and post analysis on it to see, is it improving over time? Is it making things worse over time? You can partner with development teams to run internal testing, test with internal employees, test with anyone that you know, and just get some quantitative and qualitative feedback there. Any of that work isn't wasteful, but it's always going to depend on, you know, what budget do you have available to you, what responsibilities are in your umbrella of UX responsibilities, and then you kind of need to tailor your plan and your strategies accordingly.
Thinking about what you just said, Ben, about budgets, we've seen lots of different companies out there with lots of different maturity spectrum and resources available and all these different things. And the best place to start is with data. You've already said it, and it can't be professed enough, but it has to be both quantitative to understand where things are breaking down and what might be going wrong, but also why. What's the sentiment around it? How impactful is this on the customer experience, and therefore the potential that there is for providing a real solution?
Awesome. Great points from both of you. So diving into the more technical side, Ben and Steven, could you guys share some of the tools and techniques that you employ for UX research, and how do these tools help in making data-driven decisions that aligned with the business results?
Yep, I just said it, so I'll shake it out a little bit more for
Oh,
sure. So
sure.
I'd be happy to. Well, you said it in a better way of like expand on that. But
Yeah.
WEVO obviously gives you both qualitative and quantitative. But usability studies, moderated or unmoderated, user testing is a tool that we've worked with as well. WEVO is a fantastic solution, and we always like to look at making sure that we're using different solutions as well for the correct problem that we're looking at. But voice of customer feedback is really important to us as well, and we use a couple different listening tools in collaboration with the Yankee Candle team. Session replay is another great option out there for both the qualitative side of seeing and recreating the session of where things went wrong, but also getting that rolled up product analytics as well. And then, of course, A/B testing. Having all of these insights and gathering all them up and driving them, the solution isn't always just, okay, deploy and pray. Let's hope we found the right problem, the right solution to that problem. So A/B testing is really essential to ensure that we're able to turn those insights into action.
Yeah, and there's one more that I would be I would regret if I didn't mention. It's easily doable by anyone if you're a part of an organization and you have a team, whether that's on the enterprise side like myself or on the agency side like Steven. How many of you have heard a coworker, "Hey, I saw this on Amazon. We should try it. Hey, I saw this on Nike. Would love to try it," right? That happens all the time in our area of expertise. And honestly, that's okay. And what Steven mentioned about democratizing, that's hard to say, making research democratic.
Yep.
You can do that. You can do workshops. Our team at Newell utilizes FigJam to do, maybe 30 minutes to an hour where we get 15, 20 cross-functional team members on a virtual call where we'll say, hey, we'll give the parameters, like go look at 5 or 6 direct competitors of yankeecandle.com or 5 or 6 competitors of marmot.com. And just, let's focus on just the PDP. What do you like? What do you dislike? And we'll do an iterative collaborative exercise of research using that tool set. And it's at our disposal. It's at anyone's disposal, whether you use FigJam or just, if you're in person, the old school whiteboard or sticky notes. It's an extremely effective tactic and technique to gather a ton of insights and build a bunch of hypotheses around. So that one's like a little hidden treasure that I think anyone in the UX space can do.
Awesome. Thank you both for sharing. Before we proceed to the final segment of the webinar, I'd like to open up the floor for questions from our audience. This is a fantastic opportunity for you to engage directly with Ben and Steven, asking about their experiences, seeking advice, or clarifying any aspects of our discussion today. So please submit your questions through the chat feature now if you haven't. As we disclose and wait for the audience questions to come in, I'd like to both of you just to share a piece of advice for UX professionals that are navigating the challenges of today's job market. How can they better position themselves as vital contributors to their company's success?
Sure, I'll go first. I don't know, Ben, what your answer is. Maybe it's the same, maybe it's different. But I would say oftentimes we're hearing from UX researchers that they're great, very kind of celebrated UX researchers, but no matter what role you're in, no matter what department you're in sales. Even if you're a researcher, you have to be able to sell the importance of research. You have to be able to sell the value of the insights that you've collected, and you have to be able to sell the prioritization of the recommendations you're looking to make. So you will, if you can, think about some of those and it's not necessarily persuasion is a bad thing, right? But think of those persuasive techniques of this is, and the way you do that is with data. The way you do that is understanding the opportunity, either cost or gain by the company, and being able to underpin the importance of your research with the opportunity costs.
Yeah, that's brilliant, Steven. Like, I know we've talked about this at length, but there is a storytelling aspect to that, and I know that it's a buzzword, right? I know that everyone hears that, sees that. If you Google something related to UX or design or research, oh, become a good storyteller. Yeah, sure, that is very true, but it is true. The more engaging you can be, the more you can speak the language of the people that you're talking to, it's going to help make your work more effective. I would take it a step further. My one tip or recommendation would be find an executive sponsor. Depending upon the org structure, find a C-level executive, find a senior director, find a VP, figure out what problems they're trying to solve and help them solve them. You're going to get this side road into UX of greater autonomy, greater capability, potentially larger budget, potentially greater influence for UX for your organization. If you can find a higher level sponsor and help them solve some problems, it may not even be UX related problems initially, but it will get you to UX related issues and problems. So that would be a big encouragement that I would share is, find an executive sponsor. If you can learn their language, learn what problems they're trying to solve and help them solve them consistently, you'd be amazed at how that will unlock UX for you and your organization.
I see we have a couple questions, so I'm going to jump right into them. I see the first question is from an anonymous user. Do we have an example of how you tied insights to revenue? I have two different examples I can give you. One is sort of a forecasting model where we might use like a session replay tool, like a full story or a content square to understand there's an issue here, and we're seeing these people that experienced a specific issue within the site, and those that didn't, there's an opportunity gap. And then you can extrapolate that out. It's not perfect science, but hey, it gets you at something. So that's one. And then the other is whenever we run A/B tests, we try to, as best as possible, and it's not always perfect, but to attribute where that test idea came from. Did it come from UX research? Did it come from session replay? Did it come from analytics? Did it come from development, right? So that way we can do a look back and understand, wow, this impacted a positive net revenue gain that was measurable and forecastable through A/B testing. So I'd say that there's two examples there for you. See, I don't know.
Real quick add on that one too, with the A/B testing, the platform that we use, there's really two revenue forecasts that we have. One is a very precise revenue actual. If you run a test for 2 weeks, here's the amount of money that you made through your higher performing variations of that test. And then we also project those out over a 12-month time span. So hey, the incremental revenue value of this would be X, right? So we have that on every single A/B test that we run.
I see this next question is, you've mentioned that the process depends on team structure. What team structures or other organizational aspects did you find were blockers or not helpful in your journey? I think Ben kind of answered a little bit in that you need to get an executive sponsor. You need to get someone high up who values it, understands the value, and can create change. I'd also say that over time, like of course, this is going to be self-serving a little bit, but an agency can help be dynamic with you in that maybe you're going to run UX research and then you're going to turn that into something else. Maybe you're going to, so you can be a little bit more nimble and have more access to more people and with different discipline strengths than if you had an FTE UX researcher who may have a lot of downtime. You can at least kind of recoup some of those hours there. You mentioned a couple UX tools. How do you know what is better for each use case? What's the process? There's definitely a ton of resources out there, but it really does depend on your goals. You need to identify your goal and what is your objective of that particular study. And then from there, you should be able to help answer that. If it's to try to amass qualitative information, WEVO might be the good answer for you. If it's to have in-depth interviews where you're having a dialogue with consumers, then another tool might be another choice for you as well. Marwa, I know that we're right at time. I don't know if we had another time for another question.
Yeah, thank you for lightning round through these questions.
Yeah.
Great. We can go a little bit over I just wanted to let people know we are offering a free trial for WEVO Pulse, which is our generative AI tool. If you're interested in trying the 1 month free trial, you could go to www.wevo.ai/take-a-pulse. If you want to try WEVO Pro, which is the tool that Steven and Ben used for their project with Yankee Candle, you can reach out to our sales team as well. And yeah, we can continue going on. For those that have a hard stop, I am going to be sending out this webinar in an email so you can catch up on the other questions. But yeah, we can keep going.
Cool. Okay. I'd be happy to. Go ahead, Ben.
Steven, there's one note I wanted to add to the team structure and makeup of the team. The thing I would encourage everyone in the UX space is be flexible. Oftentimes we can have this rigid mindset of we have to have a structure in a team that looks like this, or I have to have this dollar amount of a budget. But honestly, it really just depends on the organization. I've worked in way more tech driven orgs. I've worked in a way more of a digital product driven org, maybe a little bit more of a marketing driven org. And honestly, they all work. You know, you just have to be flexible in terms of, hey, what are the goals that we're trying to achieve? What's our budget? Where do I have to get scrappy? Where do I have to get creative? And just do the best with what you have available to you. And that's going to be the most effective approach for you. So less rigid, like, you know, there are absolute truths, but in terms of how you're working, I would be extremely flexible.
The next question here is, when onboarding a UX tool, what does success criteria look like? So many out there. Yeah, you're definitely right. I'd say that it's more from a process standpoint. I don't know if I'm answering your question correctly from at least my point of view, but usually what we look for is time to insights. How soon can you generate an insight? That's one of the beautiful things about WEVO is you can get insights within usually 2 to 3 weeks is how long the study takes. You want to make sure that you identify your objective in a research brief and it's agreed upon with your stakeholders prior to launching anything. But yeah, time to insights is typically one of the things that we would look for. And then the next question in here is, most sponsors would like to see some kind of reporting on the impact of UX. Do you have any tips on what to include on reports and what format would be best? I'd say, again, time to insights. If we can ensure that we have velocity, right? If you stood all this time and it took 6 months to generate something and it was a big investment, it might not be something that would be renewed. So getting time to insights, but also we have a lot of different customers with, again, different priorities, and kind of like what Ben was saying, we've had somewhere maybe it's every 1 year they're going to do a study, and that's okay. But ensuring that you're documenting what is coming out of it as far as the number of recommendations. That way you can quantify a little bit of here's the 15, 20 different things that we know are the things that came out of this. And then if they can get created into your change management system, into tickets, that's something that you can at least quantify. I don't know if that answers your question, or Ben, if you'd have any other thoughts to that.
Yeah, on that one, you know, in the UX space, communicating results I believe part of our responsibility.
Yep.
And my encouragement would be to come up with a format, a mechanism, a template that's clear, consistent, and concise. Don't over-explain it. Don't overcomplicate it. If you made $300,000, just say that, right? Or if you increased conversion rate by 2%, just say that. those types of results really do speak for themselves. You don't have to over educate, you don't have to over explain, be clear, consistent, and concise. And I think that will help you in terms of what you're sharing out and how you're sharing it.
The last question on here is, do you have any templates? I don't have any templates personally, but I'd say another process that you could potentially adopt is say it, say it, say it. So when we're presenting our research, we say upfront, here's what the top findings were, so that we get people interested, excited, they understand what's coming. Then we'll lay in some of the details of that, and then a recommendation summary. We recap everything that we're recommending. So that might be a process to follow as well. Thank you everyone for attending. Feel free to find me on LinkedIn, connect with us at CXperts, visit us at cxperts.io. Ben, anything you wanted to plug?
Yeah, Newell Brands, parent company of several D2C e-commerce spaces. We're in a bunch of different business verticals, but more importantly, reach out via LinkedIn. We'd love to connect. If you have follow-up conversations, I'm always happy to help have a conversation via LinkedIn, email conversation. So definitely connect and follow up if anything piqued your interest or you just want to connect.
Thank you, Ben and Steven, for sharing your invaluable insights and experiences with us. And thank you to all of our attendees for joining today's session. We hope you leave this webinar with actionable strategies to elevate your UX research and design efforts, and ensuring that your contributions are not only recognized, but also deemed essential for your company's growth and success. Hope you stay curious, stay engaged. Let's continue to prove the indispensable value. If you would like to take advantage again of the 1-month free trial on WEVO, just type in the website on the screen, and make sure to connect on LinkedIn and keep the conversation going. Thank you. Goodbye. We look forward to welcoming you to our next event. Take care.
See you guys.
Thanks, everyone.